Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Today we will learn how Yemen, which was under the Persian rule or was part of the Sassanid Empire, it was a province of the Persian Empire, it became a Muslim province. How did all of that happen? Remember, after Abraha, his son Yaksum became in charge of Yemen, and after that, his another son Masruq became in charge of Yemen. Then, with the efforts of Saif bin Dhiyazan Hamiri or Hamiri, a little bit of around 600 some men of an army came from Persia and came to Yemen, and there was a fight between the army of Masruq and this army and the army of Saif. As a result, Masruq died, and this area became part of the Persian Empire. The commandant general, man by the name of Wahraz, became the governor of Yemen. After Wahraz died, his son Marzaban became the governor of Yemen. And after Marzaban, his son Tainjan became the governor of Yemen. After Tainjan, his son became the governor of Yemen, but because of his being incompetent, was replaced by another person by the name of Bazan. When Prophet ﷺ was in Medina, it was Bazan that was the governor of Persia. After the Pact of Hudaybiyah, Prophet ﷺ started writing different letters to different kings. And one of the letters was written to the Emperor of Persia. This Emperor of Persia, his name was Khusro and Parvez, the combination. The first one we talked about was Khusro Noshirwan, and this is Khusro Parvez. Now, Khusro Parvez is ruling Persia, and Prophet ﷺ picks a companion whose name is Abdullah, the son of Huzafa. And he is from Banu Sahm. So he is Sahmi. Banu Sahm is one of the Quraysh tribe, if you know the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ. Abdullah bin Huzafa as-Sahmi was picked because of the reason that he was a frequent traveler to the Persian Empire, so he was aware of the affairs and culture and a bit of a language and things of that nature. So Abdullah bin Huzafa was sent with the letter to go to the Persian emperor. And he was instructed to deliver the letter in the hands of the Persian emperor. So Abdullah bin Huzafa reaches Persia. But it was very difficult to meet the emperor. Somehow he managed to make an appointment so that he can meet the emperor. Now he's in the emperor's court with the letter in his hand, and the emperor orders one of his men to go forward and take the letter from the hands of Abdullah bin Huzafa. At that time, Abdullah says, no. Prophet Muhammad ﷺ instructed me to deliver this in the hands of the Persian emperor and nobody else. So the Persian emperor says, so Abdullah, come forward. Abdullah reaches the Persian emperor and hands over the letter. Persian emperor takes the letter from the hands of Abdullah bin Huzafa and hands it over to the person who will read it to him. And the text of the letter was quite similar in all the letters that were written. That this letter is from Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam to, in this case, after to, it was to the Emperor of Persia. And then after that, it was the same message that I call you to Islam and accept the Islam. And when you accept the Islam, it will benefit not only you, but your entire nation. But if you refuse it, you will be punished, and you will also get punishment for your entire nation because of you, they did not accept Islam. Anyway, when the letter was opened, and the person read, from Muhammad Rasulullah to the Emperor of Persia, the emperor became extremely furious upon hearing this, because he had ego issues. He said, how dare he write his name before my name? He should have written to Emperor of Persia from Muhammad Rasulullah. Why did he write from Muhammad Rasulullah to the Persian emperor? He wrote my name after his name. He took the letter from the hands of the person reading the letter and tore it into pieces and ordered Abdullah bin Huzafa to be thrown out of the court. Abdullah bin Huzafa left the court and went on the route to Medina. A day later, Emperor realized, I should not have acted the way I acted. Go and call that person Abdullah bin Huzafa. But he was nowhere to be found because he already was on his route to Medina and he was a swift rider. He left Persian Empire and went to Medina. Went to Prophet ﷺ and told him what happened. And the Prophet said, the Emperor of Persia didn't torn my letter. Rather, he torn his empire into pieces. That empire will soon fall. And that's exactly what happened. In near future, during the times of Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu, the entire empire of Persia was indeed torn apart and was conquered. Anyway, what this emperor did, Emperor of Persia, he wrote a letter to Bazan, who was the governor in Yemen. And he said, well, you are in Arabian Peninsula. You are in the southwest corner of Arabian Peninsula. It is easier for you to go and approach this prophet. And according to the details that come in the books, that emperor thought that the prophet is in Mecca. So he wrote, a prophet is born in Mecca. I want you to go to Mecca and I want you to get this prophet and bring him to me and send very strong men, but only 2 of them to go and fetch him. If he resists, you know what to do. So what Bazan did, Bazan hired a wrestler from Yemen, along with him a soldier from Persia, and send them to find the prophet and bring the prophet to the emperor. These 2 people, as they were traveling through Ta'if at that time, they ran across some people and they started asking about a prophet that is born in this region. And people of Ta'if said, well, the prophet is born in this region. He used to preach around in this region, but now he is in the city of Yathrib, which is Madinatun Nabi. So these people then started traveling further north. If you know the map, Yemen is down south. When you start traveling up north, it is first Ta'if, then it is Mecca, then it is Yathrib. It's all by the same coastal line. So they reach Medina. These 2 men entered the presence of the Prophet ﷺ and said, you have to come with us. And the Prophet said, on whose order? He said, on the order of the Emperor of Persia. He has asked for you, and you should be presented in his court. And the Prophet said, okay, how about we discuss about this tomorrow? And they said, well, if you refuse to come with us, you know what we will do. We will go back and we'll bring a massive army and we'll crush you and your people. The Prophet said, relax, stay here, and then tomorrow we'll talk. Tomorrow morning, these 2 people came again in the presence of the Prophet ﷺ and said, okay, it is time for you to go and leave with us. And the Prophet said, you know what? The person who ordered you to bring me in his court, he died last night. They said, what? He died? How do you know? He said, not only he died, but his own son killed him. So since the person who ordered you to bring me to his court is no more there, so the order is void. So why don't you return back to Yemen? And these people were shocked. They did return to Yemen, and they went to Bazan and said, Bazan, this is exactly what has happened. And Bazan said, no way. How did he hear about it overnight when I am the governor and it's been weeks I have not heard any such news from the emperor? And a few weeks later, a man arrived in the court of Bazan from Persia with a letter saying that the emperor had died and he was killed by his own son. Bazan was shocked. He started looking at the papers to see what was that date when the prophet informed and what was that date then the emperor died. And he came to the conclusion the prophet talked about the same night. And he was like, indeed, he is the prophet of God. So he asked his messenger to take a letter to the prophet. The letter was delivered to the prophet in Medina. As the prophet opened the letter, it stated, Bazan, along with everybody that follow him, has accepted Islam. And that's how Yemen became Muslim. A miracle of the Prophet ﷺ also states that never lose hope. When one door shuts, many open up. Till next time, Assalamu alaikum.